The young man who was killed by law enforcement after he called for help in Clear Creek County was just 20 miles away from reaching a very different kind of police response. Not one where Christian glass would have been screamed at gunpoint, his windows smashed out, beanbag rounds fired, and tasers used before the moment he was ultimately shot. Just up and over the Continental Divide in Summit County, officers there handle mental health calls differently. The sheriff told our Steve Stager how a special 24/7 team is making their use of force incidents drop off significantly.
116 will be force an injury.
I would say I probably had a visceral reaction when I saw the video, knowing that we're fortunate enough here in Summit County to have what I call an appropriate response to any law enforcement call.
That's all Summit County Sheriff Jamie Fitzsimons will say about the police shooting of Christian Glass 20 miles from his county's border. But the sheriff is happy to talk at length about how his county handles mental health calls differently.
It's a plainclothes, plain car response, meaning that when the deputy and the clinician show up, you wouldn't know if it was the pizza delivery man or Uncle Bob visiting.
The so-called SMART teams were formed in 2019 in Summit County, made up of deputies and clinicians who respond to any calls with people experiencing a mental health crisis.
It immediately starts to destigmatize and de-escalate whatever is happening in the call. Before the teams were stood up here in Summit County, it became the default of public safety, I would say, to take everybody to the ER room and drop them off at the back door. And we literally broke the back of our emergency room.
Since the start of 2021, SMART teams have responded to more than 1,600 calls in the county. They've made no arrests, have never used force, and have only had to put 49 people on special mental health holds. And the sheriff says he sees changes across his whole agency.
I can speak for the sheriff's office. Our use of force have, plummeted because of the de-escalation that's happening on these calls.
Because mental health is not a crime, and we want to treat it that way.
Andrew Brotman leads the team of clinicians. He says working on the same team as a deputy is key.
It allows us to go to any call, so we're able to go to calls where people actively have weapons and are suicidal.
Lieutenant Derek Gutzweiler is one of those deputies.
I've been with the agency for 18 years, and I always tell people I was getting really tired of putting people in a box, in a cage. This is probably some of the most enjoyable, satisfying work that I've ever done in law enforcement.
It says because we've always done it that way with a line through it.
Law enforcement in Summit County is doing things differently, and the sheriff says it's working.
I believe that with a team like this, a co-responder team, whatever that looks like for your community, having that as a resource to deploy on any call at any time around the clock it is the future of policing.
Sheriff says making this happen is certainly not easy. He says it needs a more dedicated funding source, since much of the co-responder programs in the state are funded through grants, which take a ton of work to manage from year to year. But you also need leadership that's willing to make this change. And I could go on for quite a while about the different things that they're doing in Summit County. One being a program just like that one in the jail, where inmates there are offered group therapy, even acupuncture for different things that happen there. To the fact that Sheriff Fitzsimons actually changed the uniform of his deputies recently after doing some research and finding out the all black that they wore before was kind of intimidating to people. So now they're in khaki and green. They look like Forest Service officers out there. And
that helps people approach them differently?
Yeah, he said he loves it when people say, you know what, you look like you should be in Rocky Mountain National Park. And he's like, that's great. We're not threatening.
So, this is not to say that Summit County has always gotten it right. This effort sprang out of a situation where they really did not care for the state-sanctioned mental health provider up there, thought they were a real hot mess express.
Sheriff Fitzsimons is very colorfully quoted talking about Mind Springs Health, which was the old mental health provider there. So he steps in, he does this. This program not only includes people who respond to calls, it also includes a case manager within the sheriff's office who will check in with all these people for weeks, months, as long as it takes until they get the services and resources that they need.
Follow up instead of putting people in a box. All right, thank you, Steve.